let's hop straight into it. In this video, we talk about Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin. I've got a couple of proxy trades in eToro, SBET, and BMNR. In my non-eToro portfolios, I also hold Upexi, Galaxy, and DFDV as some Solana action. Should be good on those ones. We'll talk about any exciting news and stuff, and let's get cracking. All right, this video might get a little bit chaotic. I'm going to try and I've got a list with some prompts that I want to talk about. So apologies in advance if I go off on a little bit tangent, because there's a lot to talk about. So just jumping in, I want to talk first. I know this is a crypto video, but I want to talk about the broader market. Specifically, it's been looking quite tired. There's been a lot of talk of tops, a lot of talk of the PE, the multiple for the index is too high. I don't necessarily agree with that. The mega caps in here, they're such cash cows that the multiples they're going to get are obviously going to be a little bit bigger than historically. So we're going to see the average PEs start to stretch a little bit. So bear that in mind. If you look at the equal weighted indexes, the PE on there is a lot fairer. It's still what some would consider warm, but it's not egregiously overpriced like a lot of people would have you believe. That said, the technicals here do imply that we're up 40% in 129 trading days. That is a whopper for the index. Some cooling off warranted, some chop. So we've known that for a while. We did take about an 8% cash weighting in our primary eToro portfolio and our non-public portfolios as well. And we've been rotating into non-tech related assets for a while. A lot of people think the SPY is very, very different from the QQQ, but if you look at the weightings and the positions, NASDAQ in there, it's getting kind of similar towards each other. So if you think you're diversifying by buying 50% of one, 50% of the other, you've probably got way more overlap in your portfolio than you think you do. So that's something to be aware of going forward. They are starting to converge in their holdings. So I've been moving out into more energy infrastructure. I'm setting myself up for the next kind of 5 years with that play. There's a lot of build out required for that. So before they get cash flow positive, it's going to be a lot of cash flow spend on that. So bear that in mind. Other than that, though, my portfolio has certainly moved away from most tech. I got rid of most of my chips. I think I've got some SNCI because I think that one's got potential for a pop. It's super small cap. Start to build a Fortinet position. I want to add more to that, but I'm hoping for more downside on that one. Other than that, I've started to move into more, real estate and healthcare. Healthcare, I think, is going to be pretty good. And financials, massively into financials because the rate cuts are going to be such a boom for them. Other than that, though, very heavy in crypto for the next kind of 3 to 6 months. So that crypto really is my primary tech focus. I know the financials are fintech, so they're a little bit hybrid, but mainly I'm all out of a lot of the stuff everyone's very excited about. That didn't mean I wasn't affected by this drop. I was. I think it was just super broad market. The announcement from Trump, the rare earth stuff dropping SoFi 7% is ridiculous. What has SoFi got on their balance sheet that is affected by rare earth trade deals? But fear makes people do illogical things. Other than that, let me just check my note list because I feel like I've gone off on a tangent already. Talked about why I exited stuff. Crowded trades. So yeah, tech's very crowded. Obviously, I'm like super tech. That tech is my wheelhouse traditionally, but I know when to kind of rotate and where. The longer I'm in the market, the more I understand you need to rotate with the market. You don't need to sell all out into cash when you feel like it's getting extended. There is always opportunity somewhere. Wall Street always wants to put their money somewhere. Yes, everything might fall, but they will rise other areas faster. Is this drop done? I don't know. A lot of people are saying we're really green in the pre-market. Trump's done a 180. He still wants to make a deal with Xi, whatever his name is. Can never pronounce it. Obviously, all of that was all just posturing for the art of the deal. I don't think Trump cares a lot about the stock market. He doesn't want to do it harm, and maybe he took advantage of the drop, or his family did, but I don't think is the primary driver. I think it's just leverage. That said, if we look down at RSI, we're only just slightly below neutral. the hard bottom for me, when I've gone, forgive my language, balls deep in the broader indexes, is when they've hit kind of 30 on RSI. If we go back here, the last tariff drop, the last one, not even that long ago, really, was it? Initially, I bought really heavy on this kind of break here. Circle that for you. It was a dead cat bounce. And then we went real spicy on RSI. Now, this very rarely happens on this index, so I knew to load the boat there, and I've been able to recover out that dip very nicely. But if we go back, historically speaking, RSI oversold here. We had a real nice rally back up to break even, and again here, real nice rally up to not break even, up to new time highs. And it happens time and time again. We had the fake bounce here, but still, this is a really good entry to buy in, guys. So could we see more downside? This could be a dead cat bounce. I don't know. 1 day's worth of trading activity is not enough to base an entire plan on. I deployed some cash into it, into the day, like in, what did I buy? Let me take a quick look what I bought. So you got the full picture. Don't know. eToro is being weird. It's not telling me. It's telling me I bought AMD, and I absolutely did not buy AMD. Here we go. I bought Oscar. I think that one's going to do really well in the future. I bought more VG because that had a massive sell-off as well. Bought more Oscar, more ArcG. So I didn't really go too heavy into stocks, but I did use a lot of that cash that was sitting on to buy crypto because the downside move on there was so violent. I do think we're closer to a bottom in crypto, and we have since bounced. So I'm in the green on all but one of those purchases. So can't complain too much. It has worked out. So we've talked about that. Let's move on to crypto. But I do want to specifically say I'm still massively bullish on the market in general for the next 3 months to 6 months. I think the tailwinds are phenomenal. But let me look at Bitcoin with you. In fact, let me move on. I'm just going to put this on a minute chart because I really want you to see in the nitty gritty of what happened here whilst we're talking about it. Scrolling back. Wait a minute now. Here we go. So this was a violent move in crypto. And we're just talking about it in Bitcoin terms right now, just so it's easy to understand. So we had the gradual fade along with the broader market in the standard market hours, but then we started to get like real late at night, and we had a little bit of a cascading event, shall we say. It doesn't look that violent on here, but a lot of people's obviously Bitcoin is the most stable. Say was down like 70% in the space of an hour. It was crazy. So a lot of people saying this manipulation. I think manipulation is actually a bit of a feature in the market. If you're on the right, if you utilize your knowledge to understand that market makers will nudge price in certain ways to trigger certain things, you can sort of understand they've seen this market event. There's a lot of liquidation levels below where people have used so much leverage. They've got a big bullseye on their head. Market makers, they want that money. Every time I do a video update, I always talk about market makers. I always look at option change and where max pain is. Essentially, this is what platforms like Binance and stuff are doing, just on a really big scale. They're probably not as secretive about it as a lot of the market makers are. Just to show you, let me just pull up this quick AMD chart. So I always talk about this resistance and support. This is max pain so this resistance line, market makers would like to keep price below that so they don't have to pay out people that have got strikes above that are ending soon. Does that make sense? So Market makers provide the liquidity, but they can also use those same tools to slightly move price. If you know where those levels are, you know when to be calm and whatnot. For a long-time investor, it doesn't make so much of a difference. They're really only trying to do it with the options market in that specific scenario. But for crypto, it's a 24-hour market, and you can argue that the massive leverage they're using does make it kind of like an options market. They just don't have that time decay. Hopefully, I'm making sense still on this one. So back to this. And you could say people are insider trading this information. They absolutely are. It happened. To say that information is always going to stay private and people aren't going to take advantage of it is absolute rubbish. Obviously, you've got Nancy Pelosi making an absolute fortune from trading stocks. She has got no investment background that qualifies her to be able to make that much money. It happens. Deal with it. You can use that same information yourself. Yes, you don't have the inside scoop, but you can see those volumes on chain picking up for certain assets and understanding. Okay, so they have slightly different tools, but you do have also tools that you can use. So we've looked at the specific chart. We obviously have that massive air gap that it smashed through. So once this starts to happen, a lot of people get margin called. That adds to that sell side pressure. They have to keep adding to their portfolio to keep it afloat. Now, if they don't do that, they lose their entire portfolio or all of that position, and then some in some cases. The problem with crypto is some of these leveraged accounts, unlike the regular stock market where maybe you get 4x, and at the most, I think on eToro you can 3x leverage, so whatever that works out to. But on crypto, that's a fraction of the leverage you can have. You can have 50x, you can have 100x, you can have 250x leverage on a position. And in some regards, crypto is still the Wild West. People still want to go deep in risk, and that enables brokers to seek those levels. They know what leverage you've got. They know your margin levels. They know your stop losses. They know your take profits. They know what they will have to pay if things hit. And with a lot of this leverage, a lot of these brokers, if this had gone the other way, they could have been quite badly underwater. So it makes sense why they would want to, nudge things down the opposite direction. And aside from that, though, we also, at making things even worse, couldn't buy. I couldn't buy on eToro. I couldn't buy Solana or Ethereum for a while, and then I could buy some Ethereum. I could buy Bitcoin, but I couldn't buy Solana for about an hour. I was getting frustrated. I put a post on my wall. I know it's not the broker's fault. There's liquidity issues. Robinhood, a bunch of stuff had the same issue. So you get all this sell-side pressure, but people can't buy in to stabilize the price. So it exacerbates that drop. Now, eventually, people could buy, but that wasn't before. Price didn't stop falling because buyers stepped in. Price stopped falling because it ran out of sellers. So all that leverage was gone. Those people weren't coming back in. They weren't doing anything. They weren't even shorting it. There's nothing too short. They got no money left. So I know a lot of people are going to be mad at a lot of brokers for manipulating price and for Trump for manipulating price, but take some responsibility. You manage your portfolio. You know your risk. Don't make these decisions out of greed. Make them out of longevity. If you want to use leverage, use it on a tiny portion of your portfolio, and do not use 250% leverage. That is just asking for a blow up. Because in situations like this, your stop losses, they might not even get triggered. It could blow absolutely past that and annihilate your entire life savings, as we've seen. And it's awful what's happened. But again, people took this risk knowing that this was a possibility, but they just disregarded it because they felt safe, they felt sure. Even when I'm 100% confident in something, I would never dream of using 250x. I wouldn't even use 50x. Maybe I want to take a swing trade and I'll use 0.27% of my portfolio for a 2x position. But I'll also pre-apply margin for that when I'm trading with the rest of my portfolio to know that I've got that buffer. And I'm certainly not going to put that leverage on when the market is around all-time highs. So just bear that in mind, okay? Now let's just look at the chart in general, because we've finally got to actually talking about what's going to happen now. So let's just actually look at the price action of what is possibly going to happen now with Bitcoin. So we're still above the point of control on the year to date. Love that. Still looks really bullish. We're still in a bullish market structure. We didn't make a lower low. Love that. Love it. We're popping back up. We're basically back inside this wedge, pennant, megaphone, whatever you want to call it, the trend lines. We're hitting a head on here. Would love to see Bitcoin this week get back over that, but we could also reject down on it. We're hesitating now. Buyers not stepping in. Part of me wants us to drop a little bit more so I can finish spending the cash that I've got set aside. And actually, it's a little bit less bullish for me if we do pop out super fast, if that makes sense. I like price to take its time and make levels. So, we hit that resistance perfectly as well, textbook. So there's really not too much to talk about. We're back neutral. I mean, the fear and greed index for crypto, we've basically had a good reset. MACDX Plus took an absolute smash on, long-term holders, bailing. Quick look at the weekly. Fundamentally, nothing has changed. You really need to remember that it's mainly a market structure event that's happened. Weekly looks fine as well. The only fundamental thing that's happened here is that crypto now looks a bit more dangerous to TradFi, that kind of stuff. It looks a bit more Wild Westy. A lot of people will have been put off from crypto from events like this. There's probably millions lost from this. Billions of dollars has exited this. People won't come back. And they're probably going to talk to people that won't invest in crypto as well. So that could provide us some bit of a roadblock there. That could easily be offset if we do swing back the other way. But nothing's changed. Have a quick look at Solana while we're here. I don't want to talk too much on this because I feel like I've waffled on quite a lot on this video already. Quickly move it to the day. Again, Solana hit beautiful textbook levels, bounced, really respecting its volume. Would love to get above this volume shelf at 204. I've been so distracted with what's happening. The Solana ETF, I think, is going to be delayed because of the government shutdown, but that should bring a lot of upside into this one. So resistance on this one, I mean, obviously 227 is going to be an area, but we could also probably put a little bit of a trend line here as well. That's going to be your new pennant to work with. Ethereum, quickly touch on that one. We had this massive event with this wick, but we still really respected a lot of the market structure levels we're working with. So we can't be too annoyed from a technical perspective on this one. So the fundamental story is still intact. The technical story is still intact right now. Could we see some chop? Sure. Am I bearish on it? No. In fact, I would like to add more. I'm loving it. I think the proxy trades for this might take a bigger knock. If we look down the list, BMNR is my biggest proxy trade now. That is in danger of breaking its technical levels. A little bit. So ideally today we want to see this one keep above that. We are green pre-market. But yeah. Change this. It's getting tight. Still bullish on that one long term. There are a couple of companies I was looking to add back to AMD, but that's kind of popping again already. Shift 4 I think looks quite interesting. I like where it's at, but I don't want to talk too much about that. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. A little bit different. Talked a little bit more about what happened in the event. I think I hit all the key talking points I want. Basically, just take care of yourself. Don't over leverage. Have good risk management. Know what you're holding. That is the best advice I could give anyone wanting to get into the stock market. Know what you're holding. Good risk management. Enjoy. See you next time. That's a wrap. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to share it with your mum, your nan, your dad, your dog, whoever. I'll see you next time.